Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Nightly with Natly. I always forget to open without that on. What's going on, guys? How are you doing this Tuesday? I got my days mixed up today. And yeah, that's how my day's been going. I hope everybody's been doing well. I know that things are starting to get a little bit weird, and we're going to go through some of these headlines. Let's see, a little update. I'm working on writing my first piece for my main YouTube. I did state that I was going to change a little, not that I'm changing the content. I'm still going to do like headlines and stuff like that, but I'm actually going to add on to the content. This is going to be something very exciting that I will be, making content on, and I'm super excited for that. What up, chat? My chat's lighting up. Hi guys, what up? Let's drop a teacup like Rocky said. Let's drop some teacups in the chat. Let me know that you're here and you're ready for the tea, ready for the news of what is going on in the world. Let's go ahead and just jump in. How about that? All right, so I talked about this today. I made a piece on it on Natly Denise. Why do I look so yellow? I don't know. Maybe it's the lighting. I don't know. But anyway, I talked about this today on a piece on Natly Denise on the Barclays CEO, 𝘱𝘬𝘮𝘢, who resigned after they uncovered some details in a report they delivered to the bank at his place of work on Friday. And so these details are apparently, and by the way, let me just preface that we don't know what these details are yet. We don't know what exactly has been revealed in these details, but it is so provocative and so dire that it made him resign. And he's still getting a hefty paycheck, like despite him resigning and all that, he's getting like $3 million, $160,000 in pension. But yeah, it must be that provocative that Barclays was like, hey, yo, guy, you gotta bounce, like, because this stuff we can't be tied to this. So I'm really curious to know what it is that they found on the CEO and his ties with Epstein. So I mentioned in the video that I made today that there were some curious scenes about his wife and 𝘱𝘍𝘍 Island. And by the way, if you guys don't know what 𝘱𝘍𝘍 is, it's the code word for 𝘱. I can't say it because I don't want to agitate the codes and stuff, you know what I mean? But there were some pretty sketchy details that have to do with his wife and him going, to 𝘱𝘍𝘍 Island and Little St. James, and there's just a lot that's not disclosed. But he very quickly said, like, oh, I regret that relationship, blah 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 blah. It was just very strange. If you're interested in more details, go to that video on my main page. I posted it today. So not only, this is just piggybacking off of that story, but not only did he resign as CEO of Barclays, but also he was provoked to also resigned from his trustee position at Bowdoin College. Bowdoin? I don't know how to pronounce that. Bowdoin College. He resigned as a trustee as well. So this is just fueling more fuel to that fire, that I think that there are some really deep things going on that we don't see quite yet. But it must be that provocative, because he's over here saying like, oh, I didn't know that, you know what the usual story is. We didn't know that he was that bad, and, we regret our relationship, and, da. But it must be something deep. Coming from News Center, Maine, and this is NBC News Center, Maine. Brunswick, Maine, a Bowdoin College trustee with connections to 𝘱𝑗 resigned from the Board of Trustees on Monday, the college says. The Portland Press Herald reports that James Daly, a board trustee since 2007, also left his position as, they actually meant Jess Daly. So NBC, just some corrections there. It's Jess Daly, not James. Or maybe it is James, and that's his nickname. What do I know? So anyway, he's also resigning as a board trustee. He's been a board trustee since 2007. This is reiterating my point. What were these details containing that are provoking this I can't talk. Hi, can't talk. Whoops. That is provoking this big fish to resign from his post, not only as CEO, but also as a trustee. He's long held these positions from Barclays. I believe he began in 2015. And then from this institution, he began in 2007. So he's leaving it. So Daly, a former JP Morgan executive, managed 𝘱𝑗 finances from 2000 to 2013. Oh, this is some news. Even after an investigation recommended that 𝘱𝑗 be dropped as a client. Daly's resignation is a large part that sparked the student-led efforts to remove him from the board, which is a good move, because who would want to be associated with that, right? But this is some actually this part right here is news to me, that from 2000 to 2013, he was actually a client of his, that 𝘱𝑗 was a client of Daly's. And we only know from, I read from ABC News as well as New York Post that, apparently he had that one incident where they sailed to his island, him and his wife, Jess Daly and his wife, sailed to 𝘱𝑗 Island, and that he was like, oh, but our relationship just quickly tapered off after that. But really, he's had a relationship with 𝘱𝑗 since 2000. So that's JP Morgan, that's Barclays. I mean, it really makes me very curious about like how deep these financial institutions are in it with 𝘱𝑗. You know what I mean? Because even something that I didn't mention on the video, it was somebody from Goldman Sachs who bought his house in New York. So there's just a lot of like financial institution individuals, colleagues that are just kind of like moving around and like, appearing, as we can see, appearing and surfacing in the news. It's just astonishing to me how much of this has been covered up, So more on that to unveil, I would hope, soon. But yeah, that's some very interesting stuff, that he is so provoked that he not only was asked to step down by Barclays, but also he stepped down himself as a trustee from Bowdoin College. Crazy. All right, within the 𝘱𝑗 saga and world, there's some news on some 𝘠𝘠 and some Cuomo. Interesting. Maxwell attended Cuomo-Kennedy wedding in 1990, says an author of a new book. Let's take a look at some of these details. Accused trafficking, Maxwell, I can't talk today. Oh my God, what's going on? Accused sex trafficking 𝘠𝑗 Maxwell attended ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo's ritzy wedding to Kerry Kennedy in the early 90s, an author claimed in a new book about her run-ins with the British socialite. Christina Oxenberg, a distant cousin of Prince Andrew, wrote in her tell-all, Trash, Encounters with 𝘠𝑗 Maxwell. She first met Jeff 𝘲𝘪𝘀, alleged madam, at Ethel Kennedy's Hickory Hill home in McLean, Virginia, following Cuomo and Kerry's nuptials in 1990, the Sun reported. The ceremony took place in a cathedral in Washington, D.C. that was attended by scores of invited guests, the front door near impenetrable because of the charm of media and mob of Kennedy fans. Oxenberg wrote in the tome released Thursday. Now, okay, I believe actually this Oxenberg person was also, her daughter was in Nxivm, I think. I really recall that name. Christina Oxenberg. I think her daughter was actually trafsploited in the Nxivm saga. I think so. Isn't that a crazy little circle of life there? How everything is just so closely related. So anyway, she wrote, following the church nuptials, a trimmed down group was invited to a reception held on a rolling green grounds surrounding the elegant home of Ethel Kennedy, aka Mrs. Robert F. Kennedy, the author continued. And it was the guests were all milling amiably before lunch and standing between Hickory Hill House and the tent that I first met her. Oxenberg was with her then husband, British painter Damien Ills. When Maxwell sauntered over and she and Ewes burst with enthusiastic greetings, she wrote. I would later learn that they were friends from their Oxford days, which I put in quotes because Damien never attended Oxford. The author, who had numerous encounters with Maxwell over the years, had decided to speak to the FBI and write her book after she learned about the heiress allegedly involved with the 𝘲𝘪𝘀 sex transploitation scheme. Said the encounter at Cuomo's wedding was brief and the two only engaged in small talk. Interesting. Very interesting. She also noted that she believes Kerry invited Maxwell to the wedding, not Cuomo, who was at the time a little known. He was simply the governor's son in those days, Oxenberg wrote, adding that Cuomo was extremely unfriendly and kept to himself at Kennedy events she attended. The disgraced former governor, the son of the New York Governor Mario Cuomo, would go on to be accused of sexual misconduct himself, prompting criminal forcible touching charges against him. I never saw Cuomo behave inappropriately. I'm always supportive of any victims in the case of sexual misconduct. I don't know the specifics, but I hope justice prevails, she said. And she's talking about the whole, Cuomo saga that recently happened in the past year where his aides, his staff were coming up against him and accusing him of sexual misconduct. A source close to Andrew Cuomo said that the former governor has no recollection of Maxwell at his wedding. A representative for Kerry didn't return to the Post request for comment. Kerry and Cuomo, who shared daughters Mariah, Michaela, Cara, were married for 15 years before they divorced in 2005. What do you guys think of that? Let me see. That name is connected to the Nxivm case. I know. I thought that Castro Valley. I thought though that was a very familiar name. D says Catherine Oxenberg's daughter. Yes. Yep. Exactly. It's crazy, but Christine is the sister of Catherine. Oh. And I did read at one point that they were distant relatives of the royal, the whole royal family, but in particular, distant cousins of Prince Andy, which is also swindled into this whole sexploitation saga. Isn't this crazy? Like, it's crazy, right? Like, that it's like kind of like the, what is it called? The 6 degrees of separation. How people from different, I guess, like, scandals are connected somehow. Like, that's weird. That's very weird. All right, moving on to some Huma news. Huma Abedin reveals she's in the final stages of divorcing Anthony Weiner 5 years after announcing the split. That's weird. Details her extreme trauma as a result of his underage sexting scandals and affairs. Okay, this is strange, right? Oops, I'm bumping into my microphone. This is strange, right? why 5 years after the scandal? Like, why now? Why would you wait until now? Huma Abedin has revealed, this is from the Daily Mail, that she is in the final stages of divorcing her husband, Anthony Weiner, who still lives very nearby in her building, while opening up the extreme trauma she suffered following his scandals and affairs. Hillary Clinton's top aide, 45, spoke about the dissolution of her marriage in a candid interview with The Cut, saying that she and Weiner, I always laugh internally when I read out that name, 57, sought out therapy after he was released from prison as they adjusted to co-parenting their son Jordan, who is 9. The couple separated in 2016 and filed for a divorce, but later withdrew that filing. When asked if they were getting divorced, she confirmed that they were. "We are at the final stages of our divorce," she told the outlet. "Lawyers are doing their lawyer thing." Interesting. Abedin is back in the spotlight while promoting her new memoir, Both and, oh, that's the name of the book, /and, A Life of Many Worlds, which she was released on Tuesday. The book chronicles her life growing up as an American raised in a Muslim society in Saudi Arabia, her time working with the Clintons, and her marriage and eventual separation to disgraced Congressman Weiner. Abedin said that she penned the autobiography largely for her son because she wanted him to hear her side of the story. Very interesting stuff. But I just don't you guys find that very strange that, 5 years, oh gosh, it's blurred out, but still did not want to see those blurs. So if you guys don't know the whole Anthony Weiner scandal, apparently, he was sexting a 15-year-old girl, and the 15-year-old girl actually went to authorities, and authorities seized his laptop. Now, his laptop, that's a whole other subject. That's a whole other subject, right? But apparently his laptop contains a lot of content that was not favorable by a lot of people, including the police that saw this content. Now, this is very interesting to me, okay? Why 5 years after the whole thing, when you had all this time and downtime, might I add, downtime to do this, to get divorced, is she waiting until now to get divorced? It makes me wonder what the heck is going on in the background. DEG says, that's sus. I agree. Susan Rainey says, what? Yes, this is odd. I agree. And then DEG says, maybe she doesn't want to be involved in the 𝘱 scandal about to hit soon. I would possibly. And then Adony Gutierrez says, playing innocent. Maybe. These are some interesting thoughts, but I just think that this whole timing thing is just super weird. Again, there's a lot of speculation over this laptop, talk about the Hunter Biden, laptop from hell. This was also a suspected laptop from hell dating back in 2016 when it was seized. There's been a lot of things said by, multiple entities that say like, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff here. So for her to want to make a memoir telling her side of the story, why are you I don't know about you guys, but I don't think like, oh, Huma Abedin, I want to know about her. Like, to be completely honest with you, like I that doesn't hit me like this is something that I want to know about. But it's just sus that all of a sudden she's coming out with a memoir telling her side of the story, and she's blaming, supposedly she wrote it for her son to know her side of the story. So why not put a diary? You know what I mean? Like, why not write it in a letter to your son? Like, why do you have to deploy this out to the public? That's strange. So I don't know. This whole thing is weird. Like, I don't. That picture, it looks like she's looking right at you, huh? It's kind of creepy. Let me change it. So I just find this very sus and just very curious timing that she had all this downtime completely out of the public's eye. She was completely not on social media. She was completely not doing anything. And all of a sudden, like, as she's getting what seems to be more busy with her book deal and coming out to the mainstream media, talking about her book, talking about her side of the story, like, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I am divorcing him. Like, we're proceeding on, like, as of today. Okay. All right. All right. Don't know what else to say. Yeah, it's strange times. So speaking of Nxivm, in my previous commentary on the whole Ghislaine mention at a wedding, Cuomo's wedding, I found this story very interesting. A doctor reveals how she branded the Nxivm women and why she has no regrets. Okay, strange. Very strange. And look at her just like smiling in this photo. Just, okay. All right, let's see what she has to say about this. This is from NYP. Daniel Roberts branded the women of Nxivm's elite society known as Dominus Obsequious Sororium, DOS, as she says she has no regrets. I think Keith is a brilliant man and that DOS is a tremendous organization, she told the Post during an exclusive interview. Keith is Keith Raniere, the leader of the notorious sex cult based in Clifton Park, New York, that's purported to deliver members self-empowerment, but as U.S. Attorney Richard Donoghue said in 2018, he created a secret society of women whom he had sex with and branded his initials, coercing them with a threat of releasing their highly personal information and taking their assets. Between January and May 2017, Roberts used a cauterizing tool to brand 18 of her fellow female followers as part of a initiation ritual. The women lay nude as Roberts permanently stamped, scarred, and, just them below their bikini line with an insignia incorporating Raniere's initials KR. In her book, Scarred, former Nxivm member Sarah Edmondson refers to the video recorded ceremonies as sadistic type of conditioning. But Roberts disagreed. She said it was beautiful. I mean, okay, what? I'm sorry. Rewind. What did you just say? Did she just say that branding these women was beautiful? She said it was beautiful. Okay, that's what she said. This was the doctor that branded the sex traffic victims in Nxivm. She said it was beautiful. She said, who says herself she branded with the insignia, it was about trust. They would come in and give me a hug. It was a very meaningful initiation ceremony. Okay, lady, wait a minute. I'm sorry. To this day, you're saying this is okay. Raniere, 61, is now serving a 120-year prison sentence, convicted of sex trafficking and other crimes, and some of the organization's higher-ups, including Smallville actress Allison Mack, 39, and Seagram's heiress Claire Bronfman, 42, have also been ordered to prison. The women being initiated did not know until they entered the room that Roberts would be the one to brand them. A big part of DOS was learning that to surrender to overcome fears of letting go and trust other women, said the osteopath, who has since been stripped of her medical license. Most of the information was confidential on a need-to-know basis. There was 4 or so other women in the room, all naked except for Roberts and the group's master, a high-level female, who oversaw the proceedings and who included Allison Mack. She said, I wore a blouse and a nice pair of slacks, Dr. Roberts told the Post. I looked presentable because it was very meaningful to me. The other women were necessary in order to hold down the person being branded. There would be people stabilizing the person. On occasion, you can get a small electric shock from cauterizing. You wouldn't want to be kicking or jumping, not so as to not mess up the brand. I'm sorry, but this just sounds like, wow. Interesting. This woman sounds like she's coming out and saying, like, I actually enjoyed it and I still think that this is beautiful, and she's over here like still say like she's and she's like embracing this. Like, I'm just at a loss for words right now. How do you embrace this? How? She added, the women getting branded wanted to be secured. In her book, Edmondson described the branding as a permanent trauma to my consciousness. But Roberts claims that Edmondson wanted to run a fear campaign and convince former members that they were abused. The ceremonies took place in Clifton Park, New York, townhouse of Mac, in a room that was formerly an office or bedroom, Roberts said. We took the furniture and pictures out. There was an ambient light, and we had a massage table in there for sterile coverings and cauterizing machine and other materials for branding. Officially, cauterizing machines were designed for largely antiquated medical purpose of killing skin cells through targeted applications of heat nearing 2,000. Oh my gosh. 2,200 degrees? Whoa, okay, I can't even fathom that. That's crazy. 2,200 degrees. And it was turned up to that in order to stave off infections. Roberts purchased a cauterizing machine for the sessions. Roberts began stenciling the insignia using a carbon paper and a stylus. Just below the woman's left hip, she said, and she traced the image with the cauterizing tool. For every line branded, there was an intentional reading. DOS was creating teachings to help us develop love and devotion. Okay, she's just giving more and more. I just can't. I literally cannot. She's giving more and more like attribution to this being a beautiful thing, and like how she is. What's the word? What's the word that I'm looking for? Enabling, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's just insane to me that she's making excuses for this being like some beautiful thing, and it's actually terrifying for the victims. That's just my opinion, but she keeps on like fluffing this up as if it's like she's embellishing this like it's a beautiful experience, when these women, they experience a lot of trauma. Strange, but hey, that's the world. That's the world. All right, let's move on to some traffic reports. All right. This is a very sad story, but this is what I speak on often with the foster system being so broken. A minor girl's foster parents held for sexual exploitation, human trafficking. Let's just reword this. A child's foster parents, minor girl, like if it's a girl, she's a minor. Like, so why do we have to put minor girl in front of it? Anyway, the police have arrested a couple for alleged sexual exploitation and trafficking of their foster child, police said Monday. In September of this year, a 17-year-old girl was found unconscious near a canal. She was given medical treatment and sent back to her foster parents on September 25th by an NGO. But later, after a complaint, the NGO members confronted her guardians and rescued her. In her medical examination, it was found that the girl was exploited. On October 6th, the police registered a case near her against her foster parents under sections of rape and human trafficking in the Indian Penal Code and Protection of Children from the Sexual Offenses Act of Bopa Police Station. The two were arrested on Sunday evening, police said. The victim's real father died. Her mother remarried and relocated to some other place and could not be traced, according to police. This is horrible. The victim is currently at a shelter home. I mean, do you guys understand? Like, do you guys understand? Like, this is so angering to me. Like, this story should be on some other outlet, like, where it would get more traction. You understand how sad this is? That there is literally like a 10-sentence story on a little girl, on a child who was trafficking, sexually exploited, like left unconscious by a canal. Her foster parents did this to her. her foster parents. The foster care system, I'm telling you, like, there's so many good people, but there's so many bad people too. So many bad people. And the system itself is just so broken and it's overwhelmed. But this should be something that is on the front page. This should be something that we're talking about. And how sad for this little girl that she's at a shelter. She's at a shelter. Like, not a safe house, but a shelter. And it's not her fault. Her mother can't even be traced. Her father died, and her foster parents exploited her. And she ends up at a shelter. I can't wrap my head around a lot of this stuff and why it's not reported more often, but also that, you know, this goes under the radar so much. It's really sad. Pivoting to the next traffic report story. This is from 𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘢. 2 men are sentenced to federal prison. They forced a girl to walk the Bissonnette track as part of a trafficking scheme. Cheese and crackers, I said it. I should have said trafsploitation. But anyway, for those of you, this is actually in Houston. This is where I'm from. Bissonnette Track, this is a street in Houston where a lot of prostitution occurs. And I've actually outreached down this track before. It was years ago. But it is very sad because this is literally like a hub of trafficking where the pimps are actually, like, I've seen the pimps walking with, you know, whoever they're trafficking. They are watching them like a hawk. I mean, this is a really sketchy street in Houston. So this is something that I've actually seen myself. The 2 Houston men are headed to federal prison after admitting to recruiting a teenager on social media and trafficking her for sex. Acting U.S. Attorney Jennifer B. Lowry announced on Monday Demetrius Delon White, 30 years old, and Deontay Danquise Bailey Roach pleaded guilty on January 27th. On Monday, U.S. District Judge Kenneth M. Hoyt sentenced White to 240 months, while Bailey Roach received a 14-month term. The court considered statements from the minor victim and her mother, who detailed the lasting impact of the teenager's victimization, authorities said. According to the news release, both men will be ordered to pay restitution to the victim, which is really good. Restitution, for those of you that don't know, this is actually something that I wish that more victims would get. But restitution is basically like a reparations for, you know, their trauma, maybe any medical necessities that might come out of their trauma from trafficking. That, like, all of this, it's like, think of it like this: when drug traffickers, they get caught, they get arrested, detained, and all that, you know, they freeze their assets, and then there's some sort of disbursement process that happens with their assets that actually goes to, like, any damages that they caused. Well, this is what restitution is for survivors of trafsploitation. So it's good that I'm reading that they're actually these victims, or this victim, is actually getting restitution. According to the news release, they're ordered to pay restitution. Authorities said in 2017, White and Bailey Roach recruited a troubled teenager on social media. They then brought her from Stephenville to Houston to engage in commercial sex acts. Over the next 4 days, they exploited the minor for their own sexual gratification and profit, according to court documents. Authorities said the men posted the minor on internet advertisement for commercial sex, during which time 300 people were expressed interest. The men were, I mean, whoa! Ha! Wow! Wow, 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 wow. You guys hear that? They posted this minor, they posted this girl on the, like a backpage.com type thing, like Craigslist, right? This is where they post these girls. If you guys don't know that, that's, if there's any internet sort of, I don't know, like, if there's any internet solicitation of any sort of sexual encounter or whatever, it's always on like Craigslist, or, you know, I believe Backpage is back and operating from a different country now. I think I think that's what's going on. But they can do this, right? So they posted this child on the internet, and they received more than 300 interests in this 300 people were interested in this child. Are you guys? Oh, am I? How are we not talking about this? During the time, more than 300 people expressed interest. The men were allegedly, they rented a motel rooms for the sex acts, drove her to clients' homes, and took her to a truck stop. They also had her walk on Bissonnette Street, an area commonly known for open and rampant sex trade. Authorities said before the minor engaged in commercial sex acts, the men gave her drugs, and they also kept the cash proceeds. Both men will remain in custody pending transfer to a U.S. Bureau of Prisons facility. The FBI and Houston Police Department, both part of the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, conducted the investigation. Like, honestly, like, how do we not talk about this? This is insanity that a child was posted on the internet and she received 300 interests. And it wasn't even her fault. Like, these people exploited her. So the final traffic report, Rosapine trio arrested for sex trafficking of a child. These three, they trafficked a child for years. 3 Rosapine, or Rosepine, I'm reading it like Rosapine. It's Rosepine from Louisiana. Residents are facing charges of sex trafficking a minor and a child. A bonds of more than $3 million in connection of sexual abuse of child under the age of 13, according to Vernon Parish authorities. Everett D. West, 41, Dina Gaudry, and Bobbin Allen Tisdale were arrested November 1st, charged with a slew of offenses ranging from human trafficking to first-degree rape in relation to the alleged sexual exploitation of a child that occurred over a span of 4 years. 4 years they trafficked this child. Sheriff Sam Crafts said that the arrests were the result of an extensive investigation that began in August after detectives received a complaint involving the alleged sexual abuse. The victim disclosed to the detectives, DCFS workers, and the pediatric physician that the abuse had been going on and involved several individuals who engaged in sexual contact with her from age 8 to 11. I honestly, like, I don't know. Like, these 3 individuals trafficked this 8-year-old until they were 11 years old. Kraft said the victim also indicated the suspects engaged in the rampant use of illegal narcotics within the home. He said that it was a belief of detectives investigating the case that the sexual contact with the child was provided to individuals in exchange for monetary benefits or illegal narcotics. According to Kraft, the victim told detectives that Gaudry had been present in the room of numerous occasions while she was being sexually assaulted. Statements obtained by the detectives from other adults indicated that Tisdale had offered the child to them for the purpose of sexual contact. Detectives said that there were 3 children, including the victim, living in the home at the time of the alleged sexual abuse, and that the victim reported incidents of physical abuse against herself and other children that also had taken place. Kraft said that the children had been removed from the Louisiana Department of Child and Family Services and had been relocated to a safe environment as of Tuesday. West was charged with 1 count of contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, first-degree rape of a victim under the age of 13, and indecent behavior with the juvenile. His bond was set at $400,000. Could you imagine that these people can literally still break bond and get back on the streets? Gaudry was charged with indecent behavior with a juvenile, human trafficking, improper supervision of a minor by a parent or guardian, contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, and 4 counts of first-degree rape of a victim under the age of 13. Her bond was set at $2 million, almost $3 million. Tisdale was charged with human trafficking, 4 counts of first-degree rape of a victim under the age of 13, improper supervision of a minor by a parent or guardian, contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, and indecent behavior with a juvenile. His bond was set at $3.1 million. Kraft said the investigation remains active and that detectives believe that there are more people who were offered access to the child for illicit purposes. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact Detective Jeff Price at 337-238-1311 or 337-238-7248. I mean, this is just... this is atrocious that this is that this is happening every single day, and I see these headlines happen every single day. If you are wondering how you can help something like this, I am in the midst of planning out Trafficking Alliance. This is an organization that I just started, and I am taking in volunteer submissions, and you can go to countertraffickingalliance.com. I believe my mods did drop that link in the chat, so you can click that link, or you can go to countertraffickingalliance.com to submit or even donate, if it's on your heart. But basically, right now we are in need of researchers. So if you're good at research, if you're great at looking up your own area, you know your law enforcement stats, and you're interested in looking up a lot of that research for the purpose of combating trafficking, then please go to countertraffickingalliance.com. We are looking for researchers right now. That's going to be the immediate need for our beginnings in our next planning phases. I am meeting regularly with people who are helping me flesh out the Counter-Trafficking Alliance, and there are many people that have signed up. So I am currently going through that. So if you think that you are a good researcher and this is something that you can do, please do submit that volunteer submission. So I will include the link in the description after this broadcast. You guys can click it at any point. And, if you know anybody, please share that link with them and let them know, hey, they're looking for researchers, they're looking for leaders. And, you're going to be a leader within your own area. So I'm very excited for that. But right now we're in the beginning phases, and we're very excited to unveil these plans pretty soon. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great night. I hope that you guys stay blessed. And as always, please, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and share the channel and the podcast with many other people as I deliver daily headlines as well as daily traffic reports to you guys. I love you all. You guys have a very blessed rest of your night, restful night, and I'll catch you in the next pod. Bye, guys. Stay blessed.
Thank you so much for tuning into Unravel with Natly Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.